I'd like to call to order the March 19th, 2015 regular meeting of the Mayor and Council at 8:02 p.m. On roll call, Councilman Caramagna.
Present.
Coletti.
Here.
Martino.
Here.
Pedigano.
Here.
Bonsino.
Here.
Dombrowski.
Here.
Mayor Mola.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Will everyone stand for a prayer and flag salute? O God, our Father, we ask you to bless our meeting, in which we trust thee, fatherly care and protection. Please remove all selfishness and prejudice from our hearts and plant therein a keen sense of justice and a greater love for you and our neighbor. Guide us in our deliberations so our decisions will always please you and bring peace and happiness to our community. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whereas Chapter 231 of the Public Law of the State of New Jersey requires that the commencement of every meeting is stated by the presiding officer. Now therefore be advised, the meeting requirements of this meeting have been met by posting an annual notice in the record of Hackensack and the Herald News of Woodland Park, and by posting such notice in the office of the Borough Clerk as well in the public place in the municipal building, and by notifying interested citizens. Said notice was posted on January 1, 2015.
Okay, Mayor, the first item for discussion.
Let me just finish. Thank you. A council meeting is on cable channel 77, Monday at 2 p.m., Wednesday at 4 p.m., and Friday at 12 p.m. And of course, it's always on our web, www.elmwoodpark.nj.us. What I would like to do, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but if we can get the firemen here, are any of the children here?
Mayor, nobody showed up.
We had something on the agenda today. The young people who participated in the poster contest was supposed to be here, and we have what, seven awards or 5 awards?
Yeah, the school was supposed to fall off the student on the time to be here.
Yeah, and nobody's here. So,
I told me the wrong day.
yeah, what do you want to do, Pompey? You want to go to your meeting with the other firemen?
I'll have to find out tomorrow what's going on.
So we'll skip it and then maybe have them come back again?
You know.
Okay, then we'll do that. We'll skip it. If no one's here.
Nobody
Okay.
to give a poster to.
Hmm?
There's nobody to give an award
That's
to.
right, that's right. I'm sorry, Mr. Swoboda.
Okay, Mayor, the first item for tonight's discussion is the 2015 municipal budget. We have with us tonight, before we move on to the ordinance to establish a cap bank and the introduction of the budget, the borough's chief financial officer, Mr. Roy Rigatano, who I will turn the meeting over so he can discuss the budget summary.
Okay. Before you is the introduction to the municipal budget. The municipal budget is just intro this evening. The public will have their say in 28 days from now at the public meeting. It'll be at that time that the public has whatever they want to question concerning the budget. It will be entertained at that time. This evening, the law requires a formal presentation on introduction to the budget. It would be advertised in the newspaper. Also, you'll have an ordinance for the cap bank. The cap bank is basically taking money, since we're not going to be going over the cap, we'll be under the cap, which means that money we're savings will go into the next 2 years proceeding budgets.
Thank you. You want to read the introduction?
Okay.
Mr.
Okay, Resolution 94-15, introduce ordinance number 1503, first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to Exceed the Municipal Budget Appropriation Limits and to Establish a Cap Bank," be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as said can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So move.
Mr. Catamagna, second.
Second.
Mr. Dombrowski, discussion?
Mayor, if I may. A zero increase on this municipal budget will make our residents very, very, very happy.
This is a tribute to this council, the council before it, and the council before that. In order to reach a zero increase, we are tapping a surplus that took many years to build. We now can bank that 2% allowed by law to use in the future if needed. I hope we never do so and put that burden on our taxpayers. So gentlemen, let's keep up the good work, stay frugal in our approach to the finances of this town so that we don't have to tap that bank 2%, hopefully forever.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Mayor. Just to follow up to Councilman Coletti's comments, we achieved a 0% increase this year. We leveraged the surplus, some higher than anticipated revenue, and which is very good. We want to be concerned as we look at forward years, what's going to happen, because we want stability in that tax rate. And one thing I'd like to see us get back to, which we haven't done for a couple of years, is meet with our department heads and go through line by line through their budget items to make sure their line items are thoroughly scrubbed. On the public side, it tends to be almost an entitlement when you carry these line items from year to year. So I think it would be prudent for us to get back to that and just make sure our department heads are looking to work smarter and more efficiently going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Okay, Councilman Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
Yes,
Martino,
Yes.
Patagano,
Yes.
Bonsino,
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Rigatano, I think you could leave if you wish.
Okay, there was one other.
We haven't introduced the budget.
Oh, okay.
That was cap banking.
All right.
Okay. Resolution 95-15, introduction of the 2015 municipal budget. Be it resolved that the following statement of revenue and appropriation attached hereto constitutes the local budget of the Elmwood Park, Bergen County, New Jersey, for the year 2015. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the record in the issue of March 25, 2015, and that a hearing on the budget will be held at the Municipal Building on April 16, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Need a motion?
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Dombrowski.
Second.
Mr. Caramagna, discussion?
Yes, Mayor, this is the budget that we work, I mean, I'm in a finance committee that we had with Mr. Monzino, Mr. Stephen Martino, and I know that Mr. Coletti made a nice comment, so did Mr. Monzino. And this is the budget for this year. The one was mentioned before, 94-15, is mainly the municipal budget that we have to approve. And this is the introduction of the budget for this year. And I think it's, now it's time to make this comment. The good work that we did, all of us, we're very frugal. And after all these results, we are able to introduce zero increase in tax, all of us. Thanks to Mr. Rigatano for the beautiful job you do, excellent. And also the auditor, Mr. Paul Lurch, thanks to them. That's why we have this zero increase this year. Thank you.
Anyone else? Call the roll, please. Oh, let me just make a comment. It is a zero increase, there's no question about it. And I kind of predicted that early on, that we would try to get to a zero increase. But as was indicated by our auditor, we have to be careful in the next 2 years to see that our budget doesn't go up and we have another spike. So we have to be very careful. It's zero this year. We don't know what's happening next year, the year before, but we'll take the good times valet here. Call the roll, please.
Okay, Mayor, first, I'd like to make the public aware that by the end of business on Monday, the budget will be available to be viewed on the borough website. Also, a copy of the budget will also be available at the library and in the municipal clerk's office for anyone who wishes to review the budget prior to the April 16th budget hearing. Okay, on roll call, Councilman Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
yes,
Martino,
Yes.
Patagano,
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, Resolution 11115. Mayor, the following resolution was added to tonight's agenda earlier today, which shows the municipality has met the requirements that allows for self-examination of the budget. Okay, Resolution 111-15, resolution for self-examination of the 2015 budget. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Okay, Councilman Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
Yes.
Martino,
Yes.
Pettigano.
Yes.
Bonsino,
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
That concludes the budget portion.
Great. Well, good evening.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. Show me something. Bye. Good night. Good job, man. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, we're going to move on to item 6, which is the approval of minutes for February 19th, 2015, executive, February 26th, 2015, executive, March 12th, 2015, executive.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Martino, second.
Second.
Mr. Boncino, discussion? Call the roll.
Councilman Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
Yes.
Martino,
Yes.
Pettigano,
I would like to recuse myself from 2/26/15. I was not present.
Bonsino,
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Dispola, just a minute, please. Mr. Diarco, if you want to collect these and then go to your meeting with the fire department, we'll try to keep the camera off of you. You can collect it all and go to the other meeting. Okay?
I have to pick up these posters.
Excuse me?
I want to pick up the poster before.
Yeah, go ahead, take whatever you want. Go ahead.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinances. Okay, Resolution 96-15, introduce ordinance 1504, first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Chapter 2:27.1 entitled Creation of the Department Members," be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as said can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Boncino, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martino. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor. This ordinance adjusts our police table of organization, and it holds the roster at 40, but we're increasing lieutenants from 2 to 4. So the mix will change. Overall, it'll stay 40. We'll have 1 chief, 2 captains, now 4 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, and a maximum of 29 patrol officers. Again, that adds up to 40. In years past, we reduced the brass, so to speak, starting with Chief Don Grossolino. We reduced captains to, reduced the deputy chief, reduced lieutenants to 2, sergeants from 6 to 4. And when we did that, we determined that 40 was the appropriate census target for our police department. And what we decided to do is move to that new table of organization through attrition. And we realized that new table of organization almost immediately with retirements, and had to build the force back up. Through Chief Johnson and now Chief Foligno, we're moving back to that 40 roster. And if I could just show you on a graphic, Chief Foligno put together a table of organization for us, and it really helped the governing body kind of determine our go-forward plan. And this is an eye test, you're not going to see it, but essentially there's 2 red boxes here. Those are the 2 lieutenants' positions we're adding back to the table of organization. Minus those 2 red boxes, currently we have 30, a roster of 38, okay? And in discussing with Chief Foligno, without having those 2 additional lieutenants, we had 2 squads that had 1 supervisor. And if a supervisor called out sick or was on vacation, we had 1 squad without a supervisor, just an officer in charge. And that was probably a good way to run a squad. And we would be paying senior officer to that particular officer if we didn't have a supervisor. So it made sense to have 2 supervisors per squad. So we could do promotions and add those lieutenants, but what would happen is we'd take the organization that Chief Foligno created, and we'd rob 2 officers from the patrol sector out of the organization. So what we decided to do is, we had the ability to go to 40. We're going to create the 2 promotions to lieutenant, two promotions to sergeant, and we're going to backfill two officers. That'll keep the organization at the patrol and detective level static, and to give Chief Foligno the flexibility to move, as he sees fits between narcotics and detective, power shift, et cetera. The number of officers, 40. If the police will use a metric, number of officers per 1,000. We will also look at that metric, but again, it's a guideline. So we probably run about 2, a little less than 2 officers per 1,000 residents. And again, it's a guideline, and what we rely on is our particular circumstance in Elmwood Park. And we have to rely on working with the chief to determine what that appropriate number is. And so it would have been easy to just do the promotions to lieutenant, but it was more important to make sure that we kept that base of patrol officers static. And so this ordinance is a change to the table of organization, and we'll be adding 2 new police officers shortly. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
If I may?
Yes.
Let me be perfectly clear about this. I don't oppose the promotions this ordinance addresses. I question the need, though, to add 2 more police officers at this point, considering we were at 33 officers 2+ years ago and going up to 40 via this ordinance. Our professionals tell us that we have the money now. My concerns are the cost impacts this will have on our future budgets and our taxpayers. Mayor?
Thank you. Anyone else? I just want to remind everybody that we did hire 3 more dispatchers a few years ago. So that when we have a dispatcher taking all the calls from the governing, from the residents, we have 3 police officers on the street, or as far as we can get with 3 police officers. So although we are at 40 at this point, the maximum, it's like we hired a couple more police officers by hiring the dispatchers. Call a roll, please.
On roll call, Councilman Caramagna.
Yes.
Coletti.
Abstain?
Martino.
Yes.
Patagano.
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 97-15, introduce ordinance number 1505 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 2-61 entitled Volunteer Ambulance Corps Stipend be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd at 2015 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter as said can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Dombrowski, second.
Second.
Mr. Bonsino, discussion?
Yes. Yes, Mayor. This is a stipend increase for our ambulance corps for their daytime coverage, and it's been at $20, and as an incentive to get the coverage during the daytime when it's difficult to get coverage, the Corps asked that we consider an increase to $30, and this is what this is tonight. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to also add that I'm supporting this because for people who don't realize, if we do not have coverage, what happens is we have to get an outside service that comes in, either it's usually a paid service from Fairlawn, and then the resident gets charged $500 for each occurrence that they have to get an outside ambulance. So we obviously are attempting to have our own volunteers do it, and I think increasing this will help us get some members during the day so that we can get that coverage so that the residents aren't hit with that extra $500.
Any other comments? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, Councilman Caramagna.
Yes.
Coletti.
Yes.
Martino.
Yes.
Patagano.
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 98-15, introduce ordinance number 1506 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to Amend Section 7:8-3C and E of Chapter 7 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park titled Traffic," be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as said same can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be, and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Dombrowski, second.
That's-
Second.
that's it.
Second,
may I
Mr.
ask Barb-
Boncino.
May I ask Barbara a question? I think
No,
it's
let me
order-
just get the second on, then you,
just the number.
yeah.
Okay.
We have a second by Mr. Boncino. Any discussion?
I think the ordinance is 1505, at least that's what's on my computer here. She said 1506, I just want to make sure it's
No, it's
correct.
1506.
Oh, I have 05.
I have 5, too.
You have 5 too?
Yeah, it seems to be confused.
Just want to get it right, that's all.
I think that computer's confused.
It's different on the agenda than it is on the
Okay.
ordinance
Okay.
itself.
So then it is
Sorry about that.
1505.
And this is the traffic? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other comments? One of my concerns is we have a minimum fine of $100, but not more than $200. Who determines between 100 and 200?
The judge. The judge.
What happens if they don't go to court?
It's 200,
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, we have time to discuss this at the next work meeting, but if they don't go to court, what are they paying, 100 or 200? You have any idea?
There may be a different ordinance that has a payable amount. So some traffic tickets have a payable amount on the back of the ticket. However, if you then go to court, it's the judge's discretion within the ordinance or the statute.
Let's look over that before the final reading.
Maybe
Call
you
the
should
roll.
table this?
I don't think it's necessary.
It doesn't appear, that's not a major change, if we want to change it in 2 weeks, right? Mr.
Figure it out.
Mendoza?
We got time to change it.
We don't have to table.
I don't think you have to table it.
You what?
You can make a
We don't
motion
have
to
to
table it
table.
if you like.
I would like to make a motion to table this.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Catamanios, any second?
Second.
Mr. Boncino, call the roll, please.
On roll call, on tabling, Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
Yes,
Martino,
Yes.
Catagano.
Yes.
Boncino.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion fails. Actually, the last reso, it was 1506. What happened was the cap bank was an ordinance, so that became 1503. Okay? Cap bank's an ordinance, that's
Yep.
1503.
Okay.
And then 1504 for the first ordinance for the creation, 1505. So the front
Just-
page is incorrect.
Just go down one. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I just want to make, yeah.
Introduction, Resolution 99-15, introduce ordinance 1507, first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Amending and Supplementing Chapter 14-1.10F entitled Fire Prevention Technical Amendments of the Borough of Elmwood Park," be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the same can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be, and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dombrowski, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martino. Gentlemen, I just want to remind you, there was some talk with the fire department early in the meeting about tabling this.
I think Councilman Coletti was gonna,
Yeah.
as soon as we get to discussion, I'll do that.
yeah,
Table it.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for it.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping my colleagues would join me in considering tabling this. I think we have to really look at the fine schedule and put a little more thought behind it. So I would make a
Second.
motion to table it.
Second?
Second.
I second.
Second by Mr. Boncino. No discussion. Call the roll.
Okay, on roll call to table the ordinance, Caramagna,
Yes.
Coletti,
Yes.
Martino.
Yes.
Patagano.
Yes.
Bonsino.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Motion fails. Resolution 100-15, introduce ordinance number 1508 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to Amend Section 34-9 C.2b and 34-58.3 of the Chapter 34 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Zoning Site Plan Review, be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, at 8 p.m., or as soon thereafter as same can be heard, at which time any person interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be, and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
I didn't hear the move by Mr. Patagano, second by Mr. Dombrowski.
Hey, we should have buzzers. Whoever buzzed it first.
Oh, God.
Is that what that red button is?
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to just bring it up that this ordinance actually gives our building inspector some leverage and some leeway, and I think this is going to help us bring business back to Elmwood Park in a quicker manner than what's currently happening. So I think this is a move in the right direction.
Any other discussion? Mr. Rendazzo, is this your ordinance?
It is, Mayor.
Can you just explain a little bit to the public?
Initially,
You have to speak. You will.
any business or property, I believe it was in the, can't remember which zone it is right now, in the non-residential district, commercial zone, that was more than 10,000 square feet, had to come back before the planning board for site plan review.
Right.
So if you had a law office moved out, they weren't changing anything,
Why'd you pick law?
and another law office was moving in, they would be required to come before the board. If you were swapping out a law office for an accounting office, same thing, they'd have to come back before the board for a site plan. What this does is it gives the zoning officer the discretion to review it, and if he makes a determination that there's no change, he could just grant basically a CCO for it. He does also have the discretion, if he's uncomfortable granting it for the various changes, he could send it to the planning board for their review.
This,
There's no square footage moratorium. It goes as far as it goes.
It goes as far as it goes now.
I think this was a good change. Would be easier for business to come in, make it easy. It's cost them less money, encourage them to stay in Elmwood Park. The way it was before is very difficult. Go before the planning board and go for variance, takes forever and ever. Now, yeah, pizzeria, Mr. Think about Rendazzo, talk about law firm. Let's say you have a pizzeria instead, the same thing. You know, the pizza wants to come in, the other one wants to go out, makes it easy. The only thing is the zone officer decide, if there's to make some change or improvements. They don't have to go before the planning board or zoning board. Good idea, Mayor, this is good.
Thank you. I have some problem with this ordinance, and primarily because we're putting a great deal of emphasis on our zoning official instead of going to the planning board and have them review it. And if it's a major business, that it's going to be quite a big business moving, and it certainly doesn't cost them all that much money to come in, and the planning board has 18 eyes looking at it from 9 different people who are selected from the public. So I have some problem with that, but we'll have more discussion on that. Call the roll, please.
On roll call, Councilman Caramagna.
Yes,
Coletti,
Yes.
Martino,
Yes.
Patagano,
Yes.
Bonsino,
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I just want to clear one other thing up. If this happens, it'll go before the zoning officer in his office, and while we have a planning board, it's recorded and it's put on record. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Resolution 101-15, payment of bills. Resolution 102-15, payment of escrow. Resolution 103-15, confirmation of payroll. Resolution 104-15, release irrevocable standby letter of credit for T&T Wealth Group. Resolution 105-15, authorize emergency standby for the fire department. Resolution 106-15, retirement compensation for Michelle and Grasslino Health Department. Resolution 107-15, resolution to redeem third-party tax title lien for 79 Broadway. Resolution 108-15, award communication system upgrade, Goosetown Communications. Resolution 109-15, appointment of recreation employees for the Recreation Department. Resolution 110-15, amendment to the 2015 temporary municipal budget.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Dombrowski, second.
Second.
Mr. Martino? Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilman Caramagna?
Yes.
Coletti?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettigano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next on the
Ladies and
agenda,
gentlemen, excuse me 1 minute. If you see someone with a little bit more hair than our regular clerk, let me introduce Barbara Despoto, Mrs. Barbara Despoto, who is the assistant clerk at our meeting, and Mr. Kazmark is on vacation. Not vacation, he had to go to a wedding down in one of the islands,
Yep.
family.
That's like a vacation.
Well,
doesn't
I
sound
guess
like a
so.
vacation.
He heard the weather forecast for tomorrow and said he was going to the islands. Get hell, I'm sorry, Barbara.
okay, departmental reports for tonight. We have library minutes for December 15th, 2014, and January 29th, 2015. Municipal court report for January and February 2015. Department of Public Works report for January 2015. Police Department report, January and February 2015.
Motion received and filed.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martino, second.
Second.
Mr. Dombrowski, any discussion? All in favor, opposed, so ordered. Committee reports, Mr. Martino, we'll start at the left.
Okay, a few things. March 25th, there'll be a homeowners meeting again. Hopefully, everybody can attend. We need to get that, people in there to get their thoughts and ideas, and hopefully, they're going to help us move forward. Number two, I have a few articles in my hand in reference to IRS scams. It's amazing how much it still happens. Unfortunately, I had the pleasure of seeing it almost in front of me. A few weeks ago, I was at Pathmark. There was a 72-year-old woman crying that someone was going to put her in jail. And the ladies at the counter, I have to give them a little kudos. They would not let her buy a credit card because the guy on the phone wanted her to buy a credit card and then give them the numbers on there so they could spend it. She was literally in tears, and I walked out with her, and in fact, Council President Dombrowski happened to come into the store too. We were trying to convince her that it was fake, but the number on her cell phone was the actual IRS phone number. Please, if you get these calls, they're not going to call you for money. A lot of people, this is the third article I've seen in the month, they're not going to call you for money. This woman, she was beside herself. She thought they were coming to arrest her, that her family was going to be affected, and they actually had her that terrified. It was just lucky that I was there, but also lucky that the ladies at the Pathmark would not sell her this because they've seen so much of this. So kudos to them, and please be careful. On a third note, unfortunately, this week I had to use of our police department, and not for any drugs or anything. My wife got a call on Monday night while I wasn't home that someone was trying to cash checks that they had stolen out of our mailbox, and they were in Kmart. Why do I bring this up? The detective that unfortunately caught this person is a detective that died last night. And he was, for the Bergen County Police Sergeant. He has 5 grown children, and he died last night playing basketball for a charity event. So it's the old story of a tangled web we weave. I met him Monday night because he helped us out for a problem, and 2 days later, he was helping out other families, raising money, playing basketball, and he died on the court. So they're going to start asking for donations for the family. Anybody can donate $1 or $2. He's got 5 grown girls, and any help would be helpful to his family. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Pettigrew?
Thank you, Mayor. On March 28th at 10 o'clock, there will be an Easter egg hunt. I believe it's the 28th, am I correct?
Saturday, whatever it
That's
is.
Saturday, okay.
Yes.
And if you would like to bring your children, you have to please call the rec center and let them know how many children will be coming, because they will have a little gift for them. The rec center phone number is 201-797-2640. Also, Little League is still signing up players, so please get out there and let's make this a big year. The rec center now has over 200 members. These are people who pay a minimal cost and are able to use all kinds of equipment in their gym, and it's probably one of the best bargains in town. And just one note on our police, I'm very happy that we are bringing in young and diverse police into our force now. We have Spanish-speaking people, and we have people of color, something we have not seen in our town. And I want to congratulate our chief for doing an outstanding job. And also, each town is or has a criteria for so many police officers in a town. I think it's 600, one officer per 600 people. I think that's what they like to see.
It's a guideline. It's a guideline.
It's a guideline, but it's a good guideline
Well,
because,
it's a guideline established by police.
well, I think it's a good guideline, and we were understaffed for a long time. We had 6 more cops at one period previous to this. We fell way below. Budgets are one thing, but safety is another. So I just want to thank the council for their hard work in coming to an agreement to this. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
If I may, with the Easter egg hunt, it would be good if anybody going would call the rec center, but if they fail to do so, they can go and they'll have some
Absolutely.
gifts for the kids. And number 2, if they're going, wear the boots, because it's supposed to snow tomorrow, and I expect Saturday will. It's not this Saturday.
No, it's the following Saturday.
Well, who knows? Maybe we're going to have one then, too.
Please, Mayor, no.
I have a hard time finding the eggs.
Oh, gosh.
No Easter snow.
Mr. Coletti.
On March 3rd, I attended with department heads and representatives from JIF, our Joint Insurance Fund, a quarterly safety meeting. The objective of that meeting is to remind and refresh our department heads on safety issues. The bottom line is less claims, JIF saves money. In turn, the town pays less premium and gains more dividends. Let's keep in mind we are partners in the JIF. The less we spend in insurance costs, the less we have to levy the taxpayer. Safety first equals savings. I'd like to bring it to the attention of my council colleagues on March 25th at 8:30 a.m. There will be a breakfast. JIF will be hosting it. It's the yearly Safety Awards breakfast. Elmwood Park will be honored with a silver award. There's gold, silver, and bronze, so we're right in the middle. And the mayor will be walking away with a check of $1,000.
And I promise to give it to the town.
Very good, Mayor.
That's who it's made out
We
of.
needed to hear that. Pursuant to our fire department, they've been busy not so much with fire-related issues, but extractions and removing people from cars. There were 2 on Route 80 and 1 on the Parkway. And as we speak, the department is hosting a safety meeting along with JIF representative, Frank Covelli. The objective there, once again, is to keep safety a priority. And I was going to congratulate the poster children, but they're not here to congratulate. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Caramagna?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Caleri said the 25th, where's going to be the breakfast?
25th at 8:30, that's at the Stony Hill Inn.
Stony Hill?
I believe that's Polyfly Road.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that is, yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. I was happy to, Mr. Caleri decided to table the fire hydrant, because when I saw $2,000 fine, it's really too steep for the people. I was against that from the very beginning. I wasn't gonna vote against it. What I have in mind is, I think I mentioned to some of you, I spoke to the chief already. We have seniors at the high school. They need 10 hours of community service. I would like to be able to utilize these seniors with the police department, and also I have to speak to Mr. Grego. I have an appointment with him next Thursday. Speak to him, see what we can do. Utilize these kids to help older people. If they need to shovel snow, I'm sure some of them may need somebody to cut the grass. Whatever needs they have, we'd like to utilize these kids. At the same time, they get this community service, 10 hours, they need it in order to graduate. So I hope I will succeed doing so. I know that we tried many years ago. I remember that, Mayor. People used to call your office.
On snow removal.
Snow removal, it didn't work out too well. I don't know, there was a problem. I don't remember
Yeah,
what the
well-
problem was.
I don't want to interrupt you, but if you want me to
Yeah,
explain it.
all right.
We did have that where some of the students in the high school would help out seniors or people who needed the help and were incapacitated. And word got out, obviously, that they were willing to do it, and we just were overwhelmed by a number of people who wanted the senior kids in school to come and shovel the snow. And unfortunately, some of the people could afford to pay, and it's just too much for the kids. We didn't have that many kids who wanted to do it. And when you get 50 or 100-foot frontage on your sidewalks and your driveway and everything else, it takes a long time. So you're lucky getting one person or one house done. But it certainly was an effort that we tried, and there's nothing wrong with trying again.
All right, yeah. Because I could not see if somebody paid $2,000 fine. What about if this person is unable to go shovel the snow outside? There would be a lot of ifs, and then hit these people $2,000. I don't think they need that after a big storm. Anyhow, I have nothing else for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to send out my condolences to the family of Lieutenant Brian Butel, as Councilman Martino mentioned. He was the sheriff's officer who passed away at the age of 47 the other night, participating in a basketball charity event for the Tomorrow's Children Fund. This is a man that worked midnights, so during the day he'd be out helping people, donating his time to charities, and unfortunately this man has lost his life, and my condolences go out to him and his family. I'd also like to commend a young person, young adult in our community, Vinny Fava. Vinny Fava is after high school and went on to continue his wrestling career, and this past week he came in second in the nation. So I congratulate Vinny Fava and his family. On the health department, I'd like to let everybody know that the free blood pressure screening is still continuing on the third Tuesday of each month down at the Senior Center between 9:30 and 11:30. The Senior Center is located at Market Street, at the corners of Market Street and the Boulevard. You do not need to be a member of the senior organization. You just have to be over the age of 18, and there is no appointment necessary. On the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to congratulate Olga and Steve Dubinsky of the Goddard School. This week they had their grand opening. Councilman Caramagna and Councilman Martino and I were there for the ribbon cutting, and I'd like to wish them well. It's a very nice little nursery school. If anybody has any young children and is looking for a nice nursery school that doesn't have any faith-based to it. It's right here in Elmwood Park on River Road. I'd also like to mention on this coming Wednesday, March 25th, from 6 to 9, the Chamber will be hosting a business card exchange at the Twisted Elm, located on River Drive. It's no charge for current members, and it's a $20 charge for non-members, but if they join up to the Chamber that night, that fee is waived. I'd also like to mention on Saturday, April 18th, 2015, the Chamber will be hosting a bowl-a-thon between 5:30 and 8 p.m., $25 per bowler. It should be a great night. You got pizza, you got soda, and it should just be a fun night overall. One thing I'd like to mention that I didn't hear, the Little League this week on Saturday will be hosting a breakfast at the Applebee's in Garfield. Sunday, I apologize, Sunday. Little League will have a breakfast at the Applebee's for $10 per person. They would get pancakes, eggs, sausage, and a beverage, and the donation will be given to the Little League group here in Elmwood Park. Because we will, at the next public meeting, at that point, we will have an employee of ours who will be retiring, Michelle Ingrazzolino. She has put in quite a few years in this municipality, working in the health department and recently up here in our borough clerk's office. I'd like to wish Michelle and her family well on her retirement, and I'd like to thank her for her service. And lastly, I'd like to thank Barbara Despodo for stepping in for our municipal clerk. I think she's done a fine job, and Barbara, thank you. Progress.
Thank you. Mr. Boncino?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. On March 13th, our Elmwood Park Police Department responded to a report of an armed male armed with a knife attempting suicide. I'd like to commend Lieutenants DeMoore, Officers Chiavelli, Finn, and Martinez for diffusing the situation, their ability to use non-lethal force where potentially lethal force could have been warranted. They did so without sustaining any injuries that night. It's a credit to their training and professionalism. So again, I commend the four individuals. Our ambulance corps is having a beefsteak dinner on Saturday, March 28th at 7:30 p.m. at the VFW. It's not a fundraiser, it's a dinner to honor first responders. It's a beach party theme. So once we get beyond the snow tomorrow, we can start thinking about the beach. It's $35 per person, beer, beefsteak dinner, beer, soda, and cash bar. If you're interested, call Dee for tickets. Her phone number is 201-916-5032. And finally, the New Jersey SEM, we have an award of a contract for our gas commodity, and it'll be 57.5 cents per therm. It's a 21-month contract starting April 2015 through December 2016. And the New Jersey SEM, we have about 131 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, of which Elmwood Park's a member. And over the past 2 years, if you're a member of the SEM and purchased the gas commodity, you saved $1.6 million by purchasing gas as a commodity through the New Jersey SEM. And the electric bid is being structured now. I should have some news on that probably in the next month or so on the electric auction. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Randazzo?
Progress, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Dombrowski brought up a statement about a wrestler, but I'm going to mention somebody who was a wrestler state champion this year. His grandma works here in the municipal building. His name is Chaconis. He goes to Don Bosco. And he, as a sophomore, he came in second place in wrestling. As a junior, he came in second place in wrestling. And this year, as a senior, he finally won the state championship of the 280-pound class of weight. He's not only an excellent wrestler, but he got a scholarship to Northwestern University, which is in Chicago, which is in excess of $350,000. So if you have brains and you have brawn and you're a struggler and you want something bad, I tell everybody involved in any athletics, if you want it bad enough, you work at it, and hopefully you'll get something for your athletic skills and something for your academic skills, and help everybody out. I see two members of the Board of Education in the audience, and I do want to mention to them, it was mentioned once before, if they would contact Donna Puglisi, our Recreation Director, and if you want to talk about putting a tennis court, going for community development money, or open space money, excuse me, we should get started with that and see if we can put it in the high school. The tennis courts are there, maybe we can use, either fix them up or use that area to do it for both the town and for the school. The Wi-Fi will be, it is operable as of today, so please, if you want to do that, there are certain requirements you have to meet. Just go down to the library and you can get your Wi-Fi. And second, or third or fourth, whatever it is, the 100th Anniversary Committee will meet for the first time on April 7th at 7 p.m. right here in the council chambers, April 7th. Please contact my secretary, let her know that you're going to be here so we can accommodate you. And secondly, I've been working with, I haven't been working with him that often, but Mr. Kazmark has finally, at my suggestion, contacted Verizon, and we're going to use Verizon to show our council meetings. We now do it on Cablevision, and if we do it on Verizon, it's supposed to be starting now. Channel 40, I believe, I'll just have to double check that. So I'm trying to expand the idea of everybody looking in at our meetings and see what's going on at our council meetings and open it to the public so that they see what's happening. So those are the items I wanted to bring to the floor today. If I can have a motion to open the meeting to the public, please?
So moved.
Mr. Vancino, Mr. Pettigano? Any discussion, all in favor? Anyone wishes to be heard, please go to the microphone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kenneth Arabia, at 34 Locust Street, Home Park, New Jersey. I have a couple of little issues to tell you about. One, Mayor, we need lights on the building. Your building is dark. Your spotlights doesn't work. You have a flag pole with flag on the pole with no light on right now.
Thank you.
I'll just tell you that. Second thing.
You live right across the street so you can see it, that's
Right. Second thing, please, Mayor, there's things going on in this town, in your area, especially your building, that you don't know going on. I seen a guy having a garbage bag and go into the basement in your building. I don't know what he was doing, but I seen him with a bag in his head, a garbage bag. So,
My suggestion to you, if I can interrupt you, immediately call the police.
all right, I just want to make sure you think I should do that.
Yes.
But one thing I tell you right now, you need is a camera over there, because you got the big engine, that generator there, and you can't see what is going on in the inside there.
Thank you.
I just tell you that. Now I'm not done yet. There's no more issues. Mayor, one thing to ask you. You came to ask me if you want me to vote for you. One thing I tell you right now, you need more bombs you got here than you don't know about.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is, I don't think you should be running for mayor because a lot of issues.
Well, we're not going to get into the political.
All right, next thing, let me tell you another story, okay? Number 3 issue, what I want to tell you. I seen in Lyndhurst, they have stop signs that light up with solar energy system. I think we need that in town. Because I want to tell you one thing wrong with the town, we're old-fashioned. We don't update anything with lights. We need traffic lights, stop sign with lights on it, like Lyndhurst has it.
That's right.
I'm not,
No, I've already mentioned that to the former police chief. I have to just reemphasize that to Mr. Chief Foligno.
because I think that we need that, because a lot of people don't stop at the stop signs. I know, and you know, I see it all the time. And I tell you, we need that. I think, and another reason why I'm saying that, because all outside and by the buildings is dark, very dark at night, especially you should see it. I mean, there's no street lights working on outside at all.
Thank you.
And one more thing, please, Mayor, one more thing. I want to tell you something that I want to tell you, that there's 2 street lights on Market Street. I'm going towards no, this town, at this street. Marbury Street is out. I think I'll tell you that.
May I ask you to help us?
Yes,
If you walk by and you see the pole with that,
but there's no phone number.
there should be...
It's the new lights I'm talking about.
Okay, then just call Mrs. Despoto and remind her, tell her where the pole is, and we'll call public service.
Yeah, there are 2 of them out.
Okay.
And one more issue that I have to tell you. One thing I want to tell you that we should change our name to our park to Jurassic Park.
What park? What was that?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic.
There's a movie infringement there, though, we got a problem.
Thank you.
I'm just saying the truth. I mean, I'm just saying that we need to change.
We have no time left.
Okay.
Thank you.
We need to
Okay,
change.
we're going to have a short break while he changes the, videographer changes the sheet.
Barbara.
Is anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes.
Dan Goldbeck, 44 Godwin Ave. Good evening, Mayor and Council. On the Wi-Fi, it's a very good thing. It's a long time coming. There's only positives to doing that, and I think the people of Elmwood Park and the students of Elmwood Park will appreciate it. They will be able to go to a safe place like the library and access the internet. My question, Mayor, how often does Passaic Valley raise their water rates?
I believe we haven't had a raise in 3 or 4 years.
And what are they
I'm not
raising?
sure of that.
We just recently had one.
We had one this year, but
This year.
prior to that, I don't think.
Oh, this year, what was the raise?
I want to say close to 6%.
Yeah, something 5 to 6%.
5 or 6, yeah.
Now, whatever figure they give us, do we match the same percentage, or is our percentage larger that we pass on to the?
We passed the whole percentage on to the people.
Dollar for dollar,
Yes.
without any deviation?
No.
If Passaic Valley says 5%, we pass on 5% to
Right.
the. So I'm curious how millions of dollars end up in the water reserve, or whatever that account is called, how that process comes to.
We'll have Mr. Rigatano explain that to you.
You don't know?
Well, I'm not going to go over all of that right now.
Is it complicated? Is
No.
it something only the
No.
the CFO would understand?
No, I just want him to do it.
Okay, but in other words, if $100, if water costs $100 a month for me, when I send $100 to Elmwood Park, $100 is going to Passaic Valley.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's not all going to Passaic Valley. We have to keep some of that money here. Okay, we pay the fee over there. In case there's a water break or something like that, and we're losing water, we have to pay for it.
We have a maintenance factor that we have to consider in that number. The majority of the times, it's dollar for dollar. But occasionally, I've known in the past, and I can't place my finger on it, we have added a small portion onto it in order to maintain what we need in case of
Is
emergencies.
that the water reserve account? or
Yes,
is-
yes.
That's a large number for contingency.
Well,
I'm just curious,
it's
but-
better than no surplus in there.
No, I understand,
You know.
Well, maybe I can get a more detailed answer from Mr. Rickman. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to be heard? We have to listen to him. Chief.
Evening. Steve Conti, 274 Market Street. I have a couple of things to discuss. First being the River Road complex down, the apartments and the school, et cetera, et cetera. In looking at the fire in Edgewater, where they didn't have enough water to fight that fire, and they were pumping from the Hudson with fireboats. I brought up a number of years ago, before that was built, about an emergency stanchion in the river to draw from the Passaic River in case there was a fire. Was anything ever done by that builder at that complex?
From my understanding of the complex, they have enough water to supply it or to take care of any fire that has been done.
Did the fire department do an actual study if they had most of those hydrants open, what kind of pressure was lost?
They've done all those studies.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Steve, prior to getting approvals, it's mandatory that those calculations are all made. And
Yeah, I realize that, but you know what? No matter what, you're fighting a fire. You're tapping from the same system. You're gonna, well, that's just my opinion. I always thought it was an easy fix to have extra water just in case they needed to draw from it. And it should have been done, but that's another story. Any discussion about a shared parking ordinance for business?
There's been some discussion, we haven't had much of it though.
It hasn't gotten off the ground?
Not yet.
I remember the last time I was here that was discussed, which was probably over the last summer. That's how long I haven't been here. Is it ever going to get off the ground?
Depends on what the council does.
it's a work in process, Steve.
Yes, I know. Everything's a work in process. The repaving of the streetscape on Market Street, that's going to be in the spring of 2016?
We hope.
Okay. And that's after the pump station and the force main is done on the boulevard?
Should be.
All right. It's nice to see that all those dead tree branches and trees that were along River Road, past the Route 4 overpass, were finally picked up after, I don't know, 7, 8 years I've been bringing it up. But it's nice to see at least it's clean. Maybe that can be maintained now.
Where is that again?
River Road,
Yeah.
past the overpass for Route 4, going towards Fair Lawn.
Yeah, that's county.
Yeah, that's true, but those trees have been there for 10, 12, 13 years that I've been.
They
looking at.
finally trimmed some trees there, PSE&G, and they took some of that stuff away.
I got a couple things I'm jumping around on. Regarding the police department, I'm glad about the promotions that are coming up, that I hear. I'm glad about the new hires. I'm glad how active they've been with drug busts. But you just had an incident on Tuesday, 12 or 14, I don't know if they were teenagers or young adult males, beating up this one guy with baseball bats and tire irons. So we have a certain number per 1,000 people in town, how many police you should have on the force, and that's one thing. But we've never hired after people retired. So you need to keep the level staffed as what you have and not go below it. So if you want to stay at 40, that's one thing. But once you drop, you're endangering people in this town. Even though the trouble comes in not from this town, it comes from over the bridge. Okay? And,
Mr. Conti, if I can
sure.
respond to that, we have actually been proactive with that.
Oh, I know that.
We've recently
I'm
had,
aware.
and I hope that this council will continue with that moving forward, but we had had some retired officers, and we did replace them immediately.
Yes.
And actually before they retired, so we actually put on one or two extra.
Okay. Parking. Parking has always been an issue in this town. Whether it's Market Street, whether it's the boulevard, whether it's the apartments. 15 years ago, maybe, I brought up about angle parking on the boulevard by the apartments. I brought up about an abatement for the apartment owners to get rid of the courts, to get those cars off the street. Also said something about Market Street by Borough Field, taking a couple of feet and putting angle parking there. And, you know, everybody may have an opinion and a suggestion. You may not think it's a good idea. Obviously it wasn't, because nothing ever came of it. But the only way you're going to improve parking in this town is by having people with plans that make sense to do it. And then you have to do it. That's our problem. We don't do it. Okay? So there was a big meeting a couple of weeks ago that I missed. That's the reason why I'm down here. About parking. And my name was brought up. or my family's name about parking. In the meeting came about, I should have bought Mazdas for parking. Really? Okay. I didn't because I have this Terrace Street. Does anybody know where Terrace Street is?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's a dedicated street which isn't maintained by anybody except for me. For years I've plowed it, going back to when Timmy Butcher Grossi used to do my plowing. Okay? That was a dirt road for a long time. So my cousins, we used to roofing slag on the back road, leveled it off. Then miraculously back in the early 80s it got paved by the town, which was thankful. But we still had that dirt portion which is owned by the church, which I paved. Okay? Gentleman brought up my name because I got him a ticket. I got him a ticket because he was doing an oil change on the back road, and letting the oil run into the ground. That's why I called up, okay? I had a lake in the back. A couple of years ago, I put a 2,000-gallon dry well at my expense on the town property with their permission. So I do maintain that road. I allow anybody to park there. I don't tell people you can't park there, except for the one time the gentleman got a ticket for doing that. I've never towed anybody. I tell my neighbors, there's two neighbors that live by Frankie Rigolosi. They got a ticket for parking on the street because of the snow. I told her, park in my lot. Don't worry about it. But when my plow guy comes, you gotta move your car. So I did not appreciate the fact that you were discussing parking, okay? And I think when that started, it should have been stopped. It was a poorly run meeting, okay? And I didn't appreciate it at all. So getting back to this issue of parking, why doesn't anybody ever look at angle parking on Market Street? Why don't you ever look at angle parking by the apartments? And about getting rid of those courts, working with the owner?
We've done that. I'll let you finish.
No, you've done it. I've been bringing it up for 15 years. If you've done it, there should be some action.
It's up to the apartments to make the action. We've contacted them, and I've contacted them, and they said they would get back to me.
You know,
As for Market Street, that's County Road.
yeah, it's stagnant. That's the word I'll use. Okay, stagnant. We are stagnant. When we've had opportunities in this town to do things, to buy properties, we never did it. Texaco Station at the corner of Market and the Boulevard. It was proposed at one time, previous councils, to buy that and make it a little passive park or parking, commuter parking. Didn't do that. When the old Mazzo station, I'll bring that up again, was up for sale, there was a conversation about senior housing, a small complex, but senior housing. We didn't do that. When the main trucking came up, I brought up, I'm not buying it for the DPW. We didn't do that. Elmwood Ford came up for sale. I brought up, move the police department there. 85% of your calls are up there. Racial profiling. Would have been the perfect location for a police department. Hillman's property. Could have had a goddamn complex there. We didn't do that. So now, to try to repair all those issues we did not do in the past, can't do it now. Property's not available. The improvements aren't available to do. So we're still here. Okay? That back parking lot. You should have put a new municipal building there and tore this one down. Brought that up 15, 20 years ago. So even though I will say that a lot of the issues that I brought up 15, 20 years ago, I brought up 10 years ago, I brought up 5 years ago, maybe even a year ago, I can see they're still on my list. And it's unfortunate that things are not getting done. Bringing up plowing in the DPW. I empathize with them. Because it's very hard to plow in this town when you have snow on the ground and you got cars all over the place. All over the place, okay? Yeah, you have no parking on one side, whatever else. We don't move snow in this town anymore like we used to do years ago. You know who moves snow? Me. From my parking lot, from Beach Street, from in front of my building, from in front of my storefronts, from the back road, okay? And yes, Father Mike allows me to dump it on the church property, and I give him a donation to do that. So, I do think that when you're talking about the amount of snow we've been getting, especially this year, and other towns are moving snow and dumping it, we're not. So you have businesses on Market Street, people can't park, can't get over the snowbanks. Okay? And when they plow the corners, you can't dig out a crosswalk. You want fire hydrants dug out? Fantastic. Who's going to do it? You got a fire hydrant in front of a house with a person 70, 75 years old, and now with all the snow, how are they going to dig that out? And you want to propose a fine? I mean, that's slightly ludicrous, okay? What is the thoughts now regarding the Route 4 with Don Smart here at the meeting that I missed? And Market Street, is there any movement there as to what they're thinking about?
Anybody want to comment? We brought that meeting, we had a public meeting, and now the council will decide what they want to do with Market Street and Route 4.
We're working on it, Steve.
By the way, Steve, the piece of property for the DPW building on Main Street belongs to the state.
Excuse me?
Belonged to the state owned that,
What property?
on Main Street.
You mean main trucking?
No, I'm talking about main trucking.
Oh, no, okay. But
I can give
write
you-
down for
I
me.
can give you the list, okay? I just think that if you want to improve this town, mayor and council, business community, need to work together. Listen to everybody's opinions, and not just poo-poo them and say, no good. You have to find ways to help business. Shared parking ordinance. You've got people with buildings in this town who own a couple of pieces of property who can't rent their storefronts because he don't have enough parking on the street, yet he owns a building across the street. And he can't rent it because he can't say, use my parking across the street. I own the property. That's ridiculous, ludicrous. Fairlawn does shared parking, and other towns do shared parking. That is killing business. And if you don't think it is, I don't know where your head is at. Any one of these. It's got to be done, okay? Unless you do it, I don't care how hard you try, you're not going to bring in business to this town and rent in these stores. That's the bottom line.
We have shared parking on Showbot Lane, a big area of Showbot Lane.
Mayor,
They can come in, they can go in, and they can go to the planning board and get it.
hello?
Yeah.
Showboat Lane is not
Don't
a
give me the
business
hello,
area.
Pete.
Showboat Lane is not a bit. We're talking Market Street, you're talking Route 4.
Talking shared parking, I'm talking about one of the biggest industries in the country, by reference, who's doing shared parking.
That's fantastic, it's a big company. We're talking about mom and pop stores. Mom and pop stores
Right.
that can't survive because of it. That's what I'm talking about. You know, I haven't been down here in a couple of months for a lot of different reasons, but people need to look beyond for a future in this town. Okay? Because if you're not, you're going to have storefront after storefront closing. You're going to have people not being able to rent their stores, and it's going to be a ghost town. Okay? So I really think, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican. You check your ego at the door, like I said 20 years ago when I came to my first meeting, and do what's best for this town. That's the bottom line.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard?
Hello, Karen Brackett, hello. 156 Lee Street or 285 Market Street. You say that it's been discussed, you bring up ideas, but you keep going back to the fact that it's a county road. What does that mean to us? What does county road mean to me as a resident of Elmwood Park? When are we going to realize that we have to ride up and down the street and somebody should be taking care of it? Not that we have to go to the county all the time. Don't we have pride in our town? You see garbage on streets? We don't send our DPW to pick up garbage. It's county road.
Has nothing to do with it. I said the Market Street is a county road. If you're going to have parking on it, they have to give approval.
Yeah, but we have to pursue it. We can't talk about it. Everything he's saying,
We
Mr.
pursued it-
Conti, I've been listening to for the past 30 years with council saying we're looking into it. When are we going to do something about
We
our
can
town?
continue looking into it, and the county gives us permission to do whatever they feel is best, we'll do it.
Dick, that meeting that was for parking, regarding parking, who was notified about that meeting?
Which meeting?
This was
What-
an
excuse
important,
me,
that last
which-
meeting that just came on, that we were discussing all the parking problems that are going on for residents, all the people that are by Route 4. Who was really notified? Only certain business owners
About-
that we own property?
About 400 letters went out, is that right, Barbara?
Yeah, it was sent to everybody that lives within 100 feet of the affected
But don't you
areas, and it was
think-
and it was published in the newspaper.
Right, but don't you think that it was more important to the whole town? Not just business owners and property owners? I mean, I'm one of both. I got a letter. But it affects everybody, what the town, what the main streets look like. Angle parking would be such a plus to our community on Market Street, both for church and all the recreation events. We keep walking away from it. When are we going to take advantage of what we can do because it's a county road? You know, and like I say, it's just the same thing, hearing it and listening that meeting and allowing us to talk about parking problems that are problems that we're not doing anything about, and we've not been doing anything about them for a very long time. I'm not saying I have the answer, but why does it get pushed aside all the time? Why is it looked into, but then forgotten? Many of you live in this town for as many years as I do. Nothing's changed, nothing. All we see are empty buildings, empty storefronts, not a very nice business community. We need to make changes for our businesses, for our residents, and we can only come to council for that. You know, I really wish that someone could take the bull by the horns and stop pushing it under the rug. That's what I'd like to, you know, put on record. It's time to make the changes that we need to better our community. Can anybody answer me on anything? You know?
Karen, can I just
I'd appreciate
touch
that.
on one point,
Yeah.
the angled parking? The planning and development of Bergen County now requires that you back into a angled parking spot. And we don't have enough room on Market Street to be able to do that. It's unfortunate. As far as the boulevard and the apartments, there is room to do it there, but it would take some engineering feat, moving the sidewalks back. But now that you have to back into spots, it makes it more difficult to put in angled parking. So we have checked into that. With our new streetscape, we were hoping that we could do something like that, but we cannot. Just on one of your points,
Yeah,
because
you know.
we've been checking into that a lot. As far as the apartments, I would love to see something happen there. Angled parking would be great, but we'd have to move the sidewalks back about 10 feet. And right now, I see garage rental at the apartments, which I don't even know if that's legal, so that's something I have
That's
to
been
check
going
out.
on for years.
Yeah,
That's
but they
not
shouldn't be
nothing new.
renting out garages when we have a parking problem. You know, renting them out to outside sources, not the
Right.
tenants. So that's another thing that I just found out this week, so we're
I mean,
gonna
when
check
you
that out.
ride the street, well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I know mine.
Yeah.
When you ride Route 4 and you hit Fairlawn, you see a difference. You see a difference. When you ride Market Street and you hit Saddlebrook and see all the work they did there, you see a difference. We ride Market Street all the time. Doesn't anybody like say, wow,
Karen,
what's wrong with this?
Karen, this council's very aware of the fact that we have a parking problem, and this council is moving on it. What you saw a couple of weeks back was an open meeting to vet it to the public, which is the proper procedure, and we're in the process of tweaking it and moving forward with it. It's not being pushed under the rug, I can guarantee you that.
Okay, so it's going to be
It's moving.
something that could come about.
Proper
It's not going to just be forgotten about, like it's been forgotten about for 15, 16, 18 years.
No, I guarantee you that will not happen. We have a parking problem. It's time to resolve it.
I think it'll be completely addressed by the end of the year. I think we'll have, by the end of this year.
Here
we'll-
we are, going to face a new landscape development here to do what? To do what? What are we fixing? You know, and I respect our problems. I know what our problems are. But I see, just like tonight when I came to park here, how many cars are not even moving cars that are occupying spaces here or across the street. That's municipal parking. How come those cars just sit and they're not even open for people to park? You know, we have no parking for our municipal building because it's occupied by other vehicles from other departments that use the spots. You have businesses at this end of Market Street, the lawyer, the beauty salon, the restaurant. They can't make their customers park across the street half the time because all those spots are taken up. So you got all these cars parking on Market Street underneath the overpass, which is not very safe. And people having to cross the sidewalks there in the dark. So, you know, I just would like to be able to have some faith in the fact that we're not going to go through all this new work and still be the same Market Street. We need something different to happen. And you sit on the council, you're the ones that we have to seek help from. And it just makes me very upset to continually ask for help on the same situation, and then here it's a county road, just like River Road.
Karen, about 6 months ago, we did present a draft of a shared parking ordinance. I've always complained that government is very slow, and it is. As you know, it's difficult for some members to get too much done at one time. We would love to compound these ordinances and pass them all. But listening to everybody tonight, we understand the necessity of all of this, and we are working on it,
Okay.
and we'll work harder.
Okay, we'll see, you know, and as far as Mr. Conti speaking, Terrace Street or Avenue, I don't even know what it is, and it's right across from my property. The road is a disaster there. Doesn't DPW maintain that street? Shouldn't DPW maintain that street?
Yes, they should.
Okay, so then the complaint has to be made to DPW every time the road is so chewed up that you practically break your feet, your ankle crossing the street? Try walking over there and see. If it wasn't for Steve Conti taking care of the problems all the time, you know, it's clear. It needs, somebody should visit that street and see what it looks like. Because that is a street in Elmwood Park.
We'll have the engineer look at it for our 2016 road program to see if it qualifies for resurfacing.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Mayor, through you, Municipal Planner Mike Hawker is going to be on next week's agenda, next week's work agenda.
Anyone else who wishes to be heard? If not, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Let me just re-emphasize that this meeting will be seen, or could be seen on Cablevision, Monday 2 p.m., Wednesday 4 p.m., and Friday 12 p.m., or on our own website. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, before we adjourn, we have to go into an executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss elected officials' training and annual report with Risk Manager Frank Cavelli. Minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved that the public be excluded from this meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is training of elected officials by our insurance company. I don't know why it has to be private, but so be it. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye. Yeah, yeah.